Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bernard Disa Talk Show. And today on my show, we have Mr. Gopi Karunakaran, an avid reader, a blogger on economic and politics. Welcome to the show, Mr. Gopi.
Thank you, Bernard, for having me on the show. Nice talking to you. I look forward to your questions.
Right. My major questions are based on the current economic situation of the country, keeping in mind that we have been blaming COVID as the main reason, but we all know the situation was similar or worse even before the COVID could come into picture.
Yeah.
So I want to get your views on this particular, the whole concept of economy and how it has changed. Because right now I see that people are comparing us with Pakistan or with Bangladesh. And once upon a time, India was a growing economy.
Yeah. Bernard, I don't want to, give you opinions rather I would like the figures to speak for itself, See, the economy was already declining before the COVID, as you said, and those facts are in front of us. Now, after COVID, the Indian GDP shrank by 7.3% in 2021. And these are not my figures, these are official figures.
Right.
And according to the figures, the recovery is only expected in 22-23. We had a GDP of rupees 145 trillion before COVID started. And now it has shrunk to about rupees 135 trillion in 2021.
Right.
It is the worst performance, since the independence. I mean, we need to know that we are in dire straits. The RBI is projecting a growth rate of 9.5% in 21-22 on an average. But it is highly unlikely that this would be achieved. We are having a problem of, demand. Though the RBI has reduced the repo rate, or rather maintained the repo rate, an accommodative stance, it is still not able to pick up the demand, which is absent now. There is no confidence in the markets. The reason is because people don't have the purchasing power. They have lost their incomes. Companies have closed down. People have no jobs. Salaries have been cut by 30% in some cases. So where is the purchasing power? People aren't going. They are not purchasing things. It is just like what happened in 1939 during the Depression. There was no purchasing power. People were not buying things. Factories were closing down. And then the economy went into a depression.
Right.
The banks are also not, even though the repo rates are so low, the banks are not even lending. There are no customers coming in because there's no confidence in the market. The deposit ratio, the credit deposit ratio is just around 71.3, which is the lowest in 50 months. The last low was in March 2017. The banks have become, risk averse. They are not spending. They are not lending rather. And there is simply no confidence in the market. What we need to look at is our fiscal policy. The monetary policy is not helping. People, the lower the rate, still there's not going to be any investment. What we need to look at is the fiscal policy. The government is not very clear where to spend the money and how to spend the money.
Right.
As long as the government borrows locally, there is an argument saying that if the government comes into the market, then the private investors are pushed out because the government is cornering all the money. But today, since they are not investing, let the government do the job.
Right.
And there is a thing saying that, if the fiscal deficit increases, the government debt increases, then there is going to be flight of capital. It is all totally nonsense. As long as, the money is in the country, you're using the country's money, not borrowing from abroad, things are very safe. Look at America. It is spending $5 trillion because of the COVID.
Yeah.
We are nowhere near there. Our national debt is projected to be about 86 to 87%. But in Japan, it is 200%. In the US, it is, 132%. And in the US, it seems this 132% will remain so for another 4-5 years. They are not. And the argument may be, that the US is having, is a world currency and, people are investing in dollars, so they don't have a problem. Fine. But India will also not have a problem because the money is in India. You can print the money. And the government has got a lot of assets. It can always draw against those assets. I mean, and we should be spending more. The government is the largest buyer, even today, even post-COVID time, the government was the largest buyer. As long as the government spends the money, there will be confidence in the private enterprises. They would be then willing to spend. They know that the money is going to come. And how do you get back this money? By increasing taxation. In India today, the taxation is so low. We, in Europe, the taxation is almost 45%. Whereas India, it is so low at 16-17%. We are getting our priorities wrong. In India, today, the government is going to, projected in 21-22, is going to be spending about 15.6% of the GDP.
Right.
But in UK, Germany, it is almost 22 to 23%.
Right.
See, that is why, there is, the economy is reviving. American economy is now reviving. People are happy. But in India, we are going down the drain. Right. So this, in short, Bernard, is what I have a problem with. I mean, for example, this gentleman who is the head of the Finance Commission, N.K. Singh, when he was asked about deficit financing or borrowing, he said that there are many opinions. But my question is, what is your opinion? I mean, there are so many opinions available. But what is your considered opinion? The government is totally at a loss.
Right. But keeping that in mind, the present scenario, what do you think the government should have done to revive it?
Yeah, as I mentioned, printing money or, borrowing is not for, consumption, but for capital consumption. Building roads, dams, ports. I know it takes a long time, but then that is one area where you have to start, giving orders for, cement, steel and other things. Right. And at the same time, increase, direct benefit transfers. I mean, I think, we should be sending money to the people so that they can start buying things, Right. Direct benefit transfer is something which can revive the economy. We have not been able to do it. We are having M-Negra and other things. But, so far, nothing much has happened. There's no, I know people who are, one of my taxi drivers whom I always call to take me around. He has stopped driving because there are no customers. And the taxi company is asking him for 500, 600 rupees every day, that he has to pay towards the lease and other things. He doesn't have the money.
Right.
So this is just one part. There will be so many other people,
Right. I mean, yeah, because right now the situation is that most of the daily wage laborers are the ones who have been badly hit. And also the workers, like the workers who work for factories, who work at, corporate houses.
Yeah.
Have been badly hit.
Yeah.
But do you think, like right now, seeing that the whole market is right now moving towards India, so could India be the new manufacturing hub, and could that be one of the reasons why the GDP could grow as well?
Well, I'm not so sure. Just when the COVID outbreak took place, and even before that, when there was rising tension between the US and China, because of the South Sea and, aggression against Taiwan and all that, there was and during President Trump's time, there were talk that, the US companies based in China would move to India. But nothing of that happened. It all went to Vietnam. I really do not know what is the reason. It must be, I have a big feeling. One is, the Indian culture here, the government culture, changing of rules and regulation every second day. is creating a lot of issues, and the infrastructure is also pretty bad. I mean, it is not that, it is so great. Our ports are congested. Our roads are not yet that developed. The power supply is there. And then, the local government, I mean, one is, central government may desire all that, but the local governments are not up to it.
Right.
You need to have so many approvals and that is, frustrating for these foreigners, especially setting up a factory. Setting up a service industry doesn't require much time. You buy a place and, get all that other thing. But setting up a factory, pollution control, electric power, water supply, all that is a thing. And the third thing I would also want to tell you is the skill levels in India are not available as what is available in China. We have a problem. We have so many graduates, engineering graduates, but they are of poor quality. Even the workmen on the factory level are not skilled. I mean, they are not even past their primary school education. So, handling factory jobs and other things is very difficult unless and until you are trained, and we don't have those skill levels here. And the productivity is low. The third thing I would like to add is the productivity. Whereas in China and Vietnam, the productivity levels are very high. Whereas in India, it is pretty low. I don't have the figures, but we can look into it and tell you that is one of the reasons. The productivity level is also low.
Right.
We used to say that we are better than China because we have got a democracy, we have got a legal system, English is the language, we have a middle class, of 240 to 250 million. But that is all, in thin air, nothing much has happened. And there were a lot of hopes, that the Chinese, American companies based in China would come to India, but it has not happened.
It's not happened, right?
Yeah.
Before we could end up, I have one more question for you. I just wanted to know your views on the direct benefit transfers, or like taxing the rich, inheritance of tax. What are your views on it?
Oh, that is my favorite subject, and I would like to talk about it. There is a rising inequality all over the world, not only in India. 1% of the population in US and in Europe hold 90% of the wealth. I mean, this is a fact which people don't believe, but it is a fact. And the bottom, 20%, has just about, 1 or 2% of the total income. And this income is not from manufacturing or anything. It is just financial transactions. So the wealth is being accumulated. So now my suggestion here is that, we need to tax the super rich. One is, like the maximum income tax in India is about, 30%.
30%, right.
Yeah. But why should Mr. be taxed at 30%, and a guy who is earning, 18 to 24 lakhs per annum is also taxed at 30%? It should be higher. And if you look at, what is happening in what happened between 1950 and 1970 up to 1975, the tax rates were very high. The income tax rates were very high. And it was at that time, there was a lot of development, investments, and the life of the people were very rich. I mean, very, they were living a good life. But after, 75, 71, 72, and then later on when Ronald Reagan became the president and Margaret Thatcher became the prime minister in the UK, they started the supply side economics where they started decreasing the taxes, saying that there will be a trickle down effect because, if the rich are taxed less, they will invest more. But that never happened. And then that slide took place. And, even today, most of the Americans and the Britishers, they hate these two people because of what they have done to the economy. The rich have become richer, the poor have become poorer. Now, to come back to your my question about taxation.
Yes.
One is, we need to reintroduce the wealth tax or the inheritance tax.
All right.
Wealth tax, or estate duty tax, when the person dies, his estate is taxed at some level. And, or, when you give inheritance, when you pass on, at that time, either way, you can tax at that level, at that time too. So I'm not saying that everybody should be done. I'm only talking about the super rich here, people in the 1% of the people who own 90% of the assets or the income. So you have to tax them. Maybe I can't talk about the levels, but at a reasonably high level. And this has been advocated by Thomas Piketty, Emmanuel Says, and all these people. And there are great books written on it. It is possible to be done.
Right.
I mean, why should the son of a tycoon get all the wealth? Because what has he contributed to that? So he should lose some of it. Can you imagine if the estate of Mr. I don't want to take names, but it is around 70 to 80 billion dollars. And if you tax it at 50%, you would get about $40 billion, and that can fund the education level here in India. That is one, and the direct benefit, it's a big subject, but, it is needed, I'm not talking everybody should get, but a certain section of the people who are below the poverty line should get living income, and that should be provided by the government. So that is my thing. And taxing of the rich, as I said, one is, increase the income tax rates.
The brackets, yeah.
For the super rich, and then, introduce the inheritance tax or the estate duty tax. Reintroduce, it was there until the late 1980s. And when Rajiv Gandhi removed it, I do not know for what reason. So I think we should do that.
Right. Well, Mr. Gopi, a lot of insightful stuff listening from you, like how the economy and, the tax part. Yes, as you said, I could definitely get that. Like, it's your favorite subject, like how it should be taxed. I think tax plays a very vital role in a growing country like India, keeping in mind that there are only 5 to 10% of the people, the total population, who are being taxed.
Yeah. Just, Bernard, one more thing I want to add. We have got only 2 taxes in India. One is the income tax, which is the direct tax, and or customs duty, whatever is there. Customs duty is only on petroleum products, and the second thing is the indirect tax, with the GST. Okay. Now there is a third element, which is called the payroll tax or the social security tax. We need to introduce that. In the US and in America, we have almost 45 to 50% of it is taxed, and it is an equal proportion. 33% direct investment, direct taxation, 33% is indirect, and 33% is social security tax. This social security tax, I'm saying, is to be introduced so that the current generation pays for the past generation. Like, if somebody is above 60, he starts getting pension. Okay, he will get pension, disability benefit, or whatever is there, health, insurance, all that. And the current generation will pay for that, just as the next generation will pay for that. This is how, the European society works. It's not in America. America, to a certain extent, it is there. But in Europe, that is the thing. If you look at retirees in Europe, going on holidays and, having fun, it is because of the social security system. So we need to look at that. We don't have people looking at that. We are just bothered about, interest rates and this and that. But the basic thing is that, you can't have a GDP growth of, 10, 12% if we need to catch up with China, unless you have a proper education, skill, labor, health, sanitation, all that. We are looking at the wrong side of things. GDP is not the indicator of growth. Your HDI, Human Development Index, in terms of sanitation, health, nutrition, stunted growth, There was a joke, I think the latest book written by Kaushik Basu, he says that, he was talking about stunted growth. So one of the IAS officers told him, what is stunted growth? Even Napoleon was short. I mean, it is not a question of height, It is stunted growth is also in terms of mental ability. Because of lack of nutrition, you may be not very tall, but you can be intelligent too, if you have the proper nutrition. Nutrition doesn't make everybody tall, It depends upon a genetic thing, but, nutrition helps you develop your brain, your other physical abilities. So this is the type of people we have in the government. Sorry to tell you that.
Right. Well, Mr. Gopi, that was pretty insightful about how the whole economic system, the taxation and everything works. Maybe we should have one more session later on discussing more in details how India could, grow ahead
Sure.
with the other. Well, thank you so much for taking out your time and being here on the show.
Yeah, Bernard, thank you for asking me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
And dear listeners, if you have any queries, you can drop me a text or tweet. Mr. Gopi Karan will be very happy to respond to all your queries. All right, then. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, bye.